Good afternoon, everyone. Following on from Macedo's excellent presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit more about a part of the procurement cycle which is sometimes overlooked, but where some exciting digital innovation is taking place. Public procurement complaints regimes are a mechanism under public procurement systems that allow interested parties to complain about a decision to award a contract to a supplier. At last year's APPeN conference, I delivered a short presentation about electronic procurement complaint systems. After that presentation, I was very pleased to be asked by ADB to research this subject in more detail and put a particular emphasis on how such systems are being used as a tool for transparency and improving public procurement frameworks and outcomes. Funded by ADB's technical assistance, the deliverable for the assignment was to produce a full case study report to be published on ADB's website. The research methodology started with desk-based research and followed, I'd like to think appropriately, by the use of an electronic survey to gather information and data for the comparative analysis and production of the report. The countries selected were mainly ADB members, but we also included Albania, Moldova, and Ukraine, who've developed some groundbreaking innovative tools for managing complaints online. I'm pleased to say that every country that responded positively to our request gave information, and it's great to have an opportunity to share some of those findings with you today. There are, of course, various motivations for people to lodge complaints, and the impact can be significant in terms of the bureaucratic burden on the government, the private sector, the cost to the taxpayer, and very importantly, suppliers' confidence in the integrity and fairness of the procurement system. An effective complaints regime plays a significant role in supporting compliance with the laws and regulations, anti-corruption, and maintaining adherence to the principles of public procurement, such as transparency and equal treatment for all suppliers. Many countries still operate paper-based complaint systems, but this research has identified some great examples of countries developing digital tools which are also helping them to move towards truly end-to-end EGP. Of course, national frameworks cover procedures for bidders to submit complaints, and it also features in the Unstructured Model Law on public procurement. Signatories of the WTO GPA agree to maintain complaints review procedures. And it also features in the United Nations Convention Against Corruption. So signatories to the GPA and UNCAC have international obligations, in addition to their national procurement legislation, to maintain effective complaint systems, and it's particularly important that this is done transparently. The results of the research revealed a surprising range of different features that have been developed by different countries, covering user-centered design, complaint registration, compliance, complaint case management, system integration, and data. And I'm going to talk a little bit more in detail about these now. Starting off with user-centered design. So we have a country like Albania, for example, who's actually developed an adaptive website for citizens with visual impairments, providing a means of actually interacting on the website and listening to the details of the contents on the screen. Also, user-friendly submission online of complaints, and also citizen-friendly dashboards. That is to say, the information that is being analysed and presented transparently is easy to navigate and understand for individual citizens. Going on to complaints registration. This is a critical aspect, and what we're seeing in some of the countries is that in some cases you can still maintain an offline submission system in parallel with the online system until there's a total progression towards online. That there's an ability to record that a complaint has been received, record details of who submitted the complaint, record details of the relevant procuring authority, and also, very importantly, record details of the tender, for example, the tender reference. Compliance. In some countries, they're actually using a connection between systems to enforce the standstill period between the notification of intention to award a contract and contract issue. Going on from that, we're also seeing some countries actually using systems to automatically stop the tendering process once a complaint has been submitted. There's an audit trail and history of decisions that is being collected online, which I think improves the integrity of the whole process. There's a register of those decisions that are being made by the various different bodies, and also there's in some cases an automatic link between the registration of the complaint and the tender or data records for that actual transaction. Going on from that, a lot of work is involved in actually managing complaints, and in some countries we're seeing the management of the complaint workflow online, and also the recording of the status of complaints, that is, are they under review, upheld or rejected. In one or two countries they're actually going as far as generating an invoice online for the complaint submission fee, and also very interestingly, they're able to respond online in terms of the investigation. So a real transformation is taking place in this area. Making use of data, of course, is incredibly important, and system integration in some cases is being done. So the information is actually being validated against business registry, tax authority, also the reuse of EGP system data and other government data, publication of the complaint in EGP system, and publication of data and documents on a transparency portal, reusing data rather than recreating it. And last but not least, of course, data. And the power and potential for this data is immense if the systems that are being developed to manage complaints are digital, data-centric, and ideally based on the Open Contracting Data Standard. The potential really is that the information can be gathered from the person submitting the complaint and matched with existing data in the systems, and can be used to drive better transparency and visibility, both within government but also outside government, for civil society and the business community to be able to understand what is going on, and also to be able to analyze it if the data is published as open data. This data can also have huge potential in terms of business intelligence, to be able to give government and any independent complaints authority the ability to look at the whole picture and to be able to drill down to individual complaints, be it by supplier, by product, or by procuring entity. And this means that there is the opportunity to be able to use complaints to be able to diagnose problems within the system. And that's where the data is extremely valuable. It's also, of course, able to, at the same time, drive KPIs and the analysis of turnovers of complaints, the periods taken to manage complaints, process them, also where there are cases that are falling outside the legislation and the law, but also to drive red flags so that complaints in progress can be investigated from the point of view of, for example, corruption, if certain red flag indicators come up. And so the role of procurement data is important in a number of different areas, but by bringing in complaints management into the online sort of space, this links into efforts to monitor fairness and accountability, transparency, to fight corruption, to, as I mentioned earlier, move towards a truly end-to-end digital system, and also to analyse what is going on in the procuring entities in terms of compliance with the procurement legislation. The findings revealed that most of the countries reviewed operated electronics complaint systems, which they developed themselves along with the EGP systems. Also shown in this slide is some sample data on the volume of complaints, which provides some interesting sort of insights into the hidden bureaucratic burden created by procurement complaints that of course is even greater when such systems are only paper-based. Here's some information for the main reasons for the submission of complaints from the respondents to the survey. And I think this is very interesting in terms of being able to consider where the main hotspots are in the public procurement system that might need to be addressed. So we have the things like contract templates, which might suggest that there's a need to review the wordings to see whether they are properly being used or need to be updated. The subjects of procurement, there might be particular problems arising from the type of items that are being produced. And we see also formal mistakes, which could suggest that there's a need for training within procuring entities. So here's a quick overview of the functionality of the systems that were surveyed, which cover registration of complaints, case management, recording and publication of decisions, automating payment of complaint submission fees. And here's an analysis of the survey's response and their views on the key benefits of these electronic complaint systems. There's clearly a significant improvement in transparency, but it's also interesting to note that in some countries the speed of processing complaints has been improved and the cost of processing them has been reduced, and in some countries there's actually been a reduction in the number of complaints submitted, which is a very encouraging sign, I think. The full report has been published on the ADB website as a resource which we hope will be of interest to countries considering digitising their complaints management systems. I hope you found this presentation useful, and I look forward to any questions you may have. Thank you.